Good morning. Good morning, Shy. How we doing, baby? Morning,
Morning,
Daily
morning.
Rip crew. Welcome back to another episode. Hope everybody's having a great morning so far. Stock's pretty quiet for the most part. Everything's looking fairly flat, but not so quiet in the crypto markets. Bitcoin's headed down towards that 93K again, looking a little rough, but I don't know. The pullback to me is looking pretty constructive. So looking good to me. Buenos dias, Emperador in the chat. I see you, my man. How we doing? Good morning. Um, yeah, gonna be an interesting conversation today. We got some fun stuff planned. We're gonna talk a little crypto with our boy Duncan, I think, and then this whole episode is brought to you by DeFi this morning as well. So we're gonna have a fun chat with Russ from DeFi here in a little bit. So make sure you guys stay tuned for all that. It's gonna be a good time. But Shy, how we feeling about the market this morning? Things a little quiet, not too much going on.
Quiet market. The main things are catching my eyes. Obviously, Tesla's down, like I think 2% now pre-market around the 350 level. This is due to the little itty bitty state of Delaware judge wants to be heard and is rejecting the pay package again for Elon for the second time. So the shareholders didn't just like millions of shareholders didn't just approve the package twice for one individual single judge to reject it. It just doesn't make sense. So I do think that this is one of those like I'm I'm out buying because I got in at 140, 150. You've got in way earlier as well, Jordan. Like, but I just don't think it should be that. It shouldn't be sell the news events.
Well,
It really
clearly,
shouldn't.
clearly, this. I mean, investors don't care that much. I think we're getting close to testing that gap that we made from over the weekend there. I mean, even if we want to go fill that and go test Friday's highs, I think that's completely bullish, and I would actually like to see that and see some gap fill buyers there. So I was hoping for more of a dip because I'm looking for potential swing trades to the upside. So I'm looking for this to actually come in a little bit more, hopefully off that news. But we'll see. Either way, obviously some short-term bearish news that's not going to last, in my opinion, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, I mean, one judge out of all the investors voted. It's just ridiculous, right? So I definitely look for that to get taken out. Obviously, this just be a short-term headway right now, but hopefully it gives us a nice dip to capitalize on. That's what I'm looking at. But going over to the daily rip here, stocks pushing to new all-time highs. Apple, mega cap, tech strength, everything is just still strong, right? There's really no reason to be selling everything right now unless you want to be, I know, obviously protecting some of your capital into the end of year, right? But I mean, these charts, nothing is really telling us to
Well,
get out. Higher highs, higher lows. What's up, Shy?
no, I just don't understand why Apple is just hitting all time highs again. Like I'm just one of those weird things where like, what? Who's buying this stock at this level? Like PG ratio is my favorite indicator for big tech. Like it's Peter Lynch's go-to metric. It's just how to quantify, like give an apples to apples metric among the mature big tech companies on how much their earnings are actually growing while factoring the valuation. Anything below two is a anything below one is like buying opportunity. Anything above two is like way overbought.
Mm-hmm.
Apple's at 3.2. So that's showing how overbought it is. Microsoft right now is at 3.0. Nvidia is at zero point 0.7. So like that just shows how undervalued Nvidia is right now, but everyone's perceiving them as like super expensive because the run up they've had. But no, like on an earnings basis, it's not. But Apple and Microsoft, like they're above a three. They shouldn't. If you're a multi-trillion dollar company, you should not be trading above a 3.0 for your PEG ratio. So there's a disconnect from me and what's happening in the market for these names, but
I'm
it's
curious
just
though, with
baffling.
them, with Apple joining the crypto craze and everything, does that kind of change thoughts maybe? With because I'm the same way. Obviously at all time highs here. I mean, I'm very bullish on Apple. I hold Apple long term. I think it looks great here, but I'm same with you. I'm not buying it here, and I'm not looking to at all. So,
Well,
but I wonder if the crypto scene kind of changes your thoughts there a little bit.
I don't think it's enough to move the needle for Apple, but this is a big news for Coinbase. But for regarding Apple, like, tell me what in the past 10 years they've actually revolutionized. They've not even 10 years, just past a year. They Apple Vision Pro was an absolute dud. The one of the
Yeah.
worst I've seen. Apple Intelligence, they ghosted everyone on how disruptive it's going to be. They really haven't done much in the past couple of years, but again, there's leveraging their ecosystem because that's really their only moat, their consumer ecosystem with the next hottest thing, which is crypto, obviously. So Coinbase partnership makes a ton of sense, and I love it for Coinbase. I do think their fees need to go a lot lower. I think it's a race to the bottom on fees. So inevitability of Coinbase being a Robinhood where there's going to be no fees is going to be a reality. But these partnerships are huge for validation of crypto and Coinbase itself.
I mean, yeah, allowing 60 million plus users
It's
of Apple
huge,
Pay to instantly
huge.
that's massive for their consumer base. So, yeah, really good stuff there. Interesting story on Enron here. The infamous energy and commodity conglomerate was once the largest corporate bankruptcy in the U.S. on December 2nd in '01. I wasn't even born yet. Oh my gosh! I literally it was that a year later. I was popping out the womb. After it was revealed to be massive fraud, given how crazy the markets have been recently, we can't be surprised that Enron is supposedly back 23 years later, announcing that it has something very special to introduce next week. This is super interesting. Shay, what are your thoughts here? I've never even seen this ticker. I mean, given I wasn't around when when anything was hot on it. So, but I'm curious.
Uh,
Have you looked at this at all?
so I think this is probably a clear sign that we're at a top. Is when Enron's making a comeback.
You might be right. I mean, that's not a horrible assessment. I feel like
I
just,
just,
uh,
I just think they have such a narrative issue that won't go away with anything they do. I'm shocked they're trying to revive themselves or anyone's trying to back this revival. So I wouldn't touch it. Enron is just they turn into this meme of whenever anything fucks up, it's the next Enron. Why would you want to be associated with that at this day and age? Like you don't. So I think this is like them thinking they have like a second win. I'm like, fuck, things might be really frothy right now if Enron thinks they have a shot of being relevant again.
yeah, super interesting there. We got some economic data to keep an eye on for today, actually, just because this was the daily rip from made from yesterday. So this is today's economic data. We got jolts at 10 a.m. So something to watch out for there. We should see a little bit of volatility in the markets there. So if you have positions on, just be careful going into that 10 o'clock Eastern mark. We got a few Fed speakers later in the afternoon there. Some pre-market earnings going off. We got Bank of Nova Scotia going off. Core and Main, Donaldson Company, Rex American Sources, City Trends. So some interesting earnings for the pre-market, and then after hours today. These are the ones we're really watching. We got CRM, Marvell, PSTG, Box, Okta, Torrid Holdings, and Couchbase. So interesting. I almost said Coinbase when I read that. So yeah, we're gonna be keeping an eye on CRM. I know you kind of watching those, Shy, CRM, Marvell. That's kind of the biggest ones I'm watching for the most part, but not really participating in any of these earnings, and I'm not invested in any of these companies that are reporting. So
I mean,
not too worried about what's going on there, but always keep an eyes out for sure. And remember, you guys can listen to those earnings calls live on the StockTwits website as well.
yeah, I mean, I think all the data is not going to move the needle this week. I think a
Yeah.
lot of people, it's just not going to anymore. It's not really a data driven market as much. It's
I
more
will
of
say
a
NFP Friday should be fun. We got non-farm payrolls.
totally
Generally, that brings some good price action. So hopefully, maybe Friday we get some fun there. I know that's going off at 8:30 Eastern. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, we're gonna go over to chart art now and check out the charts from there. LVS and Win, yeah, those bullish moves continue. That chart looking pretty good. If you're a chart pattern guy, kind of see a little bit of a cup and handle there on those higher time frames, but looking like she wants to break out and get over that big resistance we're looking at there. So interesting. I actually want to bring that up real quick on my chart. But are you trading any of these, Shy, at all?
no. I think for those specific names, again, it's going off of the China thematic
Mm-hmm.
because you're these names are going to move on Chinese economy. It just will be. A lot of people don't realize like that side of the world is huge for like casino type stocks. So we mentioned yesterday, JD.com looks really bullish, and we also mentioned that KWeb is looking bullish as well in a technical setup. It makes sense that these casino stocks are also looking bullish. It's like kind of all these names move within that thematic bucket. So if you're bullish on those names, I think theoretically you should be bullish on these names as well. and it does look like it's about to break out. It
Yeah,
really does.
just looking at these at these names on my own charts, I just see a lot of consolidation on that yearly chart, which is just obviously rough, right? So for me, it's like, I don't know, I wouldn't really want to be heavily participating until I see some real break of structure of this like consolidation that we're in. But of course, if you have conviction, not horrible prices.
Hmm.
In terms of like the yearly charts that I'm looking at, we've just been in consolidation back and forth. So not horrible prices if you have conviction, of course. But I find myself looking at these names and wanting to kind of wait until you see some sort of actual momentum. You know what I mean? Pushing in one direction or the other. So that's just my thoughts there. But
No, you're
moving
right.
on, Coherent shines in the AI sector, one of the top performing AI stocks this year. The acceleration in earnings, sales growth, and margins in the past quarter have been great, so it's pushing that stock price way up there. I'm gonna take a look at that on my chart as well. But wow, just been beautiful up and to the right, higher lows, higher highs. We're in a bit of consolidation right now, kind of going back and forth since October, pretty much. So looking for a break outside of that consolidation. For me, I mean that weekly needs to get some momentum, but we're just riding the weekly 9 EMA right now. So as long as we're holding up this bullish trend, making higher lows, higher highs, I like it. And we did just cross that $100 though, so big psychological level that we did get above, and we're holding. So continues to look pretty bullish, and that previous all-time high is also around $100. So it looks like we retested that, held that psychological level, and things are looking decent there. What are you thinking, Shy?
I mean, this falls again within the AI thematic where you're
Mm-hmm.
seeing a lot of these like hyperscalers, Google, Microsoft, uh, Amazon, like they're trying to increase their server capacity to prepare for the massive demand AI demand that's going to happen across the next couple of years. So in order to do that, they kind of need these optical transceivers from companies like Coherent to kind of build that network data center for them. So like it's one of those like plays that is really interesting. That's caused the stock to go up 200% this year. That a lot of people overlooked, but it's one of those like niches that's absolutely a necessity for these like big tech players to fulfill their data center vision.
100%. I'm with you. Coinbase. Oh boy, I'm loving Coinbase right now. I'm just waiting for this to break out of this consolidation. Again, you notice I've said that word a lot today. We got a lot of names sitting in consolidation going back and forth. Coinbase is another one of those where we just gone back and forth on that daily chart since November 11th, November 12th, right there. So just waiting for this to pick a direction, and I do think it's to the upside given the trend we've been in. But we needed a breather, right? Coinbase ran from what was that? Just under $200 there, $190 straight to $330. Like, it's got to breathe a little bit, right? I'm not surprised that we're going sideways as long as we have been. So, I'm looking for spots to potentially pick up swings and just waiting. Kind of, I don't want to get swings, especially on options, and then sit in a ton of consolidation. So, I'm really just waiting for some real triggers there. But I think Coinbase looks great here overall, and of course, I mean, I'm heavily bullish on crypto and Tesla and that whole area right now, and going into the next 4 years. So we'll see how that does. But I'm loving Coinbase right now, and I'm definitely looking for spots to grab it. What
Yeah, I
about you,
mean,
Shy? I know you don't
crypto.
trade Coinbase much, but
I don't, but it's a great vehicle to capture any kind of crypto thematic move. And I think Bitcoin's inability to cross 100K when they're that close is so freaking bullish on this rally for crypto going into next year. It's like the way the crypto rallies work, it happens in stages. It goes from despair to intrigue to whoa to a massive move and then euphoria. We're not at the euphoria stage yet, and that euphoria stage can last quite some time, and it's gonna be quite explosive. I think the mark like crypto pulling back from 100K down to like 93, 94 right now, and almost consolidating makes me feel like we're not even entering the stage before euphoria, and that means there's gonna be a lot of runway on a name like Coinbase, where I think Coinbase to 500 might be a reality in sometime next year because of we're not even in that euphoria stage yet. We're actually in the middle of the breakout stage. So I think there's a ton of runway for Coinbase. I don't know long term because I think their profitability or margins are going to drastically change when they have to race to the bottom on fees, but in the near next 12 months, I am very bullish on Coinbase specifically.
100%. Well, speaking of crypto, I want to bring in our friend Duncan, who's an awesome crypto trader. So let's get him in here and get his thoughts on what's going on in the crypto market. I'm interested on how he's thinking about Bitcoin right now. Duncan, there you are. How we
What's
doing,
up,
my
man?
man?
I feel like you're way richer since
Hey
we talked
guys,
to you 2
I'm
weeks
good.
ago.
How are you?
Yeah.
The market's been pretty crazy, but have you guys seen this like XRP stuff? That's probably
Yeah.
like the
Yeah.
biggest thing.
I mean, just became the third largest like crypto, right? Is that a reality now?
Yeah. Yeah, so like
Wild.
with people who, so I used to work at a research like outfit in crypto research and ventures called Delphi Digital, and so I talked to a lot of people who are like full time in crypto, and basically no, very few people who are full time in crypto saw this coming, like almost
Yeah.
no one.
Well,
Um,
what was the whole start of this recent pump that we've been in? Because I'm personally I'm not like doing research on XRP or any of that. But I know you're definitely keeping an eye on all this stuff. What was the kickoff of all this that really started this run?
Yeah, and just for context, like, okay, it's up 400%. That's going
Yeah,
from like a $30 billion market cap to over $150 billion market cap in like the course of a month,
it's
which,
wild.
this isn't just some meme coin that's like a few $100 million. This is like some serious money moving through Ripple. So the first was the election just kind of kicked off a more positive regulatory environment in the U.S. And
Hmm.
Ripple's a coin that has been like sued by the SEC, like as an alleged
I
security.
remember.
They've been in like long legal battles. So I think that they've gotten some, which they won quite a few of. So I think there's been regulatory clarity around that, which has allowed it to kind of take off. And then there's talk to them like speaking with the Trump administration about doing some like stable coin on Ripple, and maybe some sort of partnership there. And then this is also just like the best marketed crypto to kind of like retail, or as like normies, as crypto people call them. It just seems like everyone loves the idea of Ripple, and they have some really good marketing. So I think this a lot of this is not from like internal crypto money rotating into Ripple, rather like retail volumes kind of skyrocketing on Ripple, and just maybe some institutional money that sees the regulatory clarity around changing SEC administration and the changing administration. Them talking to the Trump team. I think that's probably the reason it's ripping, but it has a lot of people scratching their heads
I
Yeah.
because
mean, I'm seeing a lot of people saying it's still gonna 5x. I'm like, you're saying it's gonna be $1 trillion market cap.
yeah, I'm definitely not in that camp. And it's definitely weird to see because, like, within crypto, Solana has been kind of like the star of this recent rally, and it has some really amazing technology. A lot of people who are like deep crypto researchers think that this is like the future of how we're going to scale blockchains in like a decentralized way, and then kind of Ripple comes out of nowhere. And 5x's since the election, adding like 100
Insane.
billion to their market cap.
That's just wild, yeah. I actually used to own XRP. Me and my buddies, we were buying it up a bunch, and obviously wishing I held that right now. But yeah, just crazy to see, and it happens so fast. I feel like I don't know. I also am not watching it every day, right? So to me, it feels like it happened like very fast. But
Yeah.
yeah, just quick moves, and I never would have thought XRP was gonna be the one to make that type of move. That's for sure. That's wild. I was wondering actually. I saw Coinbase is now they now are allowing you to trade Chill Guy, I believe. I mean,
Oh, okay. So did
what
they
are your
list
thoughts
it?
on that's crazy to me? I thought, are you kidding me? I mean, that's a straight. I know it's Chill Guy and it went crazy, but that is a straight meme, and they're just putting it on their platform. It's crazy to me. I don't know. Wanted to get your thoughts there.
Yeah, I think like as the regulatory environment eases up a bit, and a lot of these memes are doing crazy volumes,
Yeah.
that these exchanges, it's just like leaving money on the table for them. And maybe it's going to be some reputational risk, like I'm sure it will be if people buy Chill Guy and then it goes to zero. But
Hmm.
realistically, like that's happened a lot of times in the past. Like when Bitcoin's drawing down 80%, uh, from 2017 peak at 20,000 to 2018 at 3,000, or from 2022 peak at 70,000 to 15,000. Like, if the base asset's drawing down, 80%, then there's going to be coins that go basically down 95%. So I don't know if they think it's that much of a risk versus those other things, but the difference is that likely they don't come back. Yeah, Mudang is another one. Like, I don't know, maybe that was a strong Coinbase. I can't even keep up with all the listings, but I know that got some big listings recently. And I have here, I can share my screen. Just we can look at the top cryptos. This is like a really good way just to quickly check. Like the market cap increase in some of these, like XRP up 400% in 30 days, up to $150 billion market cap.
Gosh.
It's doing $50 billion in volume, by the way, which is pretty crazy. Wow. And that apparently, I just read this on Twitter, so we'd have to fact check it. But apparently, on like the big South Korean exchange, Upbit, that XRP was doing more volume than like their stock market.
Oh my gosh. That's why.
Or like certain
kind of makes sense right now, but like still, it's just that's crazy.
Like a certain index or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like XRP, Dogecoin's up almost 200%. Cardano's up 250%. So these are kind of seen as like the three horsemen of like the retail crypto investor. So like if you want to know if crypto's hot, these are pumping. Like these are kind of like the quintessential retail crypto coins, where every cycle it seems like your friend who texts you is like always buying one of these three. It's like Dogecoin, Cardano, or XRP. So when those are all up, Cardano 250%, Dogecoin 170%, XRP 400% in the past month, like retail is back into the crypto markets.
100%.
Well,
yeah.
How much do you think the reason there's so much liquidity right now, or so much volume, is people are trying to make a buck before they have to spend money on the holidays, or they want to like I see a lot of memes out there like, if this doesn't hit this level, like I'm gonna do something to my kids, I won't buy them gifts, etc. Like I feel like there's some kind of narrative around why there's like a pull forward demand that's occurring right now in this space.
I honestly think it's just FOMO. Like when you pull up one of these charts and you see it going straight up, and then you hear calls for it to go 5x again, like it's just FOMO, I think. And like they have some pretty good narratives. Like the XRP people have some pretty good narratives. They're like, it's meeting with the Trump administration. It's gonna be like the new stable coin that the US is going to use, is going to be launched on Ripple, and like all these tokenized assets are going to happen on Ripple.
They make a good case for sure. Yeah, they make a good case.
Sounds convincing. I haven't done as much research as I'd like into that, but that's the first time I'm hearing it. So I don't know how much credibility there are to those rumors. But if you pull up like a long-term chart of Ripple, which I can do, it's like, this happens basically at the end of every bull market. Is Ripple goes on these insane runs. Like it hit $3 in, maybe if you go to the max view, I don't know if it'll go, so it doesn't go quite back to 2017, but it also hit $3 in 2017. Because like Ripple is I think like one of, next to Bitcoin and Litecoin, like basically one of the oldest cryptos that's still around. I have this chart up right now. Ripple hit $3.30 in 2018. January 1st, 2018. So it's like I've seen this movie before.
Yeah. You know how this ends, right? And it's like, okay, I don't want to. I feel like you're just sitting back, like I don't really want to participate until I know this isn't the same thing I've seen over and over again, and that's how I kind of feel,
It's 2017. This happened, right? Very similar thing, and then again in 2021, and so it's happening again now. But maybe maybe this time is different. Who knows?
Maybe it's time to do it for real. I don't know. That's where we'll see, right? We got to wait and find out.
Yeah,
I think they do make a good case though, especially with who's in office the next 4 years. The argument for XRP isn't bad, from what you've said.
Yeah, if it's true, I don't know how much legitimacy is to that, but that's what gets spouted. But Yeah, I've seen this movie before, it feels like, but when it's happening, it's always kind of hard to know. Is it going to be different this time? Is it not?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's difficult. I know we got 5 minutes until the bell rings, and then we're gonna bring in Russ from DeFi, so that's gonna be a good chat. But I wanted to get your quick thoughts real quick, Duncan, just on Bitcoin itself right now. Dipping again this morning towards that 93K. I personally think this looks all constructive and good. I was just curious, kind of your thoughts right now on the kind of back and forth consolidation we've been in the past week or so.
Yeah, so Michael Saylor came out. I know we were talking about that a bunch last week, and so he did, or 2 weeks ago, and he did 1.5 billion in Bitcoin buying last week versus like the previous 2 weeks before. He had done like 4.5 and nearly 5 billion. So like his pace of buying has slowed down materially. I think that since he's one of the biggest like telegraph buyers in the market, that's a pretty powerful force. So if he's slowing down a bit, then we could definitely undergo some digestion. Like we had a pretty crazy move, basically from 60K up to 99K in the course of just a few weeks since the election, right? So I wouldn't be surprised at all if we see some digestion. I think the bigger question is if Bitcoin were to pull back from like 94,000 to like 84,000 or 80,000, what would happen to altcoins? Because they are very sensitive to the moves in Bitcoin, and like Bitcoin could pull back 10% and be chilling and like regain that, but altcoins, you know, they could potentially fall off a cliff on a 10% pullback. So that's where you have to be a little bit more careful, and you know, really careful with leverage and all that stuff in this market.
Yeah, something to watch out for.
Listen, Michael Saylor is going to break something. I just can't tell if it's a good or bad thing, or what he's going to disrupt. That's the tricky part.
We're gonna find out.
Yeah. So his premium is still, so it peaked like on the 20th of November, where his shares were trading at 3.4 times the value of his Bitcoin holdings. And now that is still at a healthy 2.4 times, so he can still issue a lot of equity and keep buying Bitcoin, but like it's definitely, that premium's compressed quite a bit as he's like issued, you know, all this equity to buy more Bitcoin. So I think we could just be in a period of digestion here, but everyone needs to be careful, because when Bitcoin, you know, it's typically Bitcoin will pull back and then alts, or like Bitcoin will calm down, and then these altcoins, like that could be a chance for like them to expand, like we're seeing with XRP. But if Bitcoin like pulls back sharply, then you could kind of see some leverage unwinding and some pretty bad pullbacks on the altcoins. So that's where you have to be careful.
Yeah, definitely. Gotta stay safe.
I am still wondering if we're ever going to see Bitcoin at 50K again. That's like the one thing. Like, are we that extended that the demand is out there? Everything's kind of structurally in place in the next couple of years. Will we return back to the fear of Bitcoin at 50K?
Well, I was talking to some of my friends who work full-time in the space yesterday, and it was basically like, is this time different than 2021, 2022? And it's like, yeah, you have retail buying, you have hedge funds buying, you have MicroStrategy buying, so like those three things are the same, but now you have, you know, the president talking about Bitcoin and talking about doing like a strategic Bitcoin reserve, and you have these ETFs that have taken in, I think like, you know, tens of billions of dollars in Bitcoin, and you know, the talks of like sovereigns buying. So I think that if sovereigns actually do start buying, or the US actually does do a strategic Bitcoin reserve, which it seems like there's actually a pretty clear path for them to do one, then it kind of depends on how big it will be, and then these other sovereigns kind of jump in and start buying Bitcoin, then I do think it is truly like different than the last cycles, where you have this much more sticky capital entering into the market versus kind of like the fast money of retail and hedge funds.
And no, I think crypto got validated this year, 100%. I think that's what really happened. And I know the bell is about to open up right now, but hot take: do you think Russia and China is gonna get Bitcoin as a reserve before US does?
Oh, I don't know. They all own a bit from like stuff they've seized, but it would get interesting because those are the dynamics. It's like front running. Like if the US is gonna do it, is another country gonna front run them? Right? That's where the game theory kicks in, and it gets kind of interesting.
Yeah, super interesting there. Well, Duncan, I appreciate you joining us, my man, and giving us the rundown on the crypto scene, because, you know, me and Shay are not the experts. So to have somebody that's within the markets every day. There's that bell. there's that bell. I think we're gonna get Russ now in from DeFi and and get some questions going because I'm super interested in all this. So let's get him in here, and yeah, let's
Hey
get
guys.
running. Hey Russ, how's it going?
Pretty good. That was a serious bell.
Yeah, that was a great bell, huh?
Yeah.
We love that one. Well, appreciate you hopping on for the audience. This is Russell Starr. He is the head of capital markets at DeFi Tech, and yeah, Shay, I know you're kind of leading into the beginning of this, so feel free to kick it off here. Yeah.
Well, Russell, thank you for joining us this morning. But let's start with the basics right now. So for viewers who might not know what DeFi is, can you give us the elevator pitch? Like, what is the company all about, and what makes it unique in the digital asset space?
Sure. So start with management. The two founders, one is the founder of Hive Blockchain, Ollie Russi-Newton. The other is one of the founders of CoinShares, Johan Wattenstrom. So you basically had a guy who kind of created Ethereum as a publicly traded equity in Hive Blockchain. He was watching all the revenues explode on the Ethereum chain, and he met up with his buddy who obviously created one of the first ever Bitcoin ETFs in the world in CoinShares, and they were like, what better way to try to figure out a way to actually capture some of these DeFi protocols than creating, surprise, surprise, an ETF company. So the challenge was the US obviously hated crypto for forever. And so we basically said to ourselves, well, you know, if the US is going to hate crypto, what better place than the rest of the world? So we've legitimately been launching crypto ETFs in the rest of the world, predominantly Europe, for the last 3 years. We have 30 ETFs. So you know, while everybody's going nuts about the Bitcoin ETF and the Ethereum ETF and, you know, who's the next one who might be able to launch the Solana ETF, we have the second biggest Solana ETF in the world. We have a massive Cardano fund. You know, we just launched Sui. Sui is one of our fastest growing products. And we basically have these ETFs, 30 of them. We're about to launch another 20, so we'll be near 50 by the end of the year. And probably by the end of next year, close to 100. And we're looking at expanding those into the Middle East, Africa, Asia, and then obviously with what's going on in the US. I don't think we'll ever want to go head to head with iBit or Fidelity, you know, any of the big boys, so to speak. But, you know, there's a lot of room to launch these new and cooler protocols like Sui or Hash Hedera or Toncoin, where none of the big guys are going to be competing, and we can actually make some serious inroads. And so, yeah, we're the #1 leading ETF crypto company in the world.
Yeah, I mean, first off, your stock performance validates everything you just said, because you guys are up close to 600% in the past year alone. So
yeah,
clearly standing out in that sector.
Yeah.
What do you give? Just curiosity. What do you give credit for this like insane turnaround that you guys have experienced, and how have you played a role in this pivotal turnaround this year?
Look, I mean, sometimes you got to be just as lucky as you are good. And look, having the foresight to create an ETF company based off of legitimately DeFi protocols versus just your standard Bitcoin or Ethereum, you know, that was smart, really smart. But the two biggest inflection points for us were probably Grayscale winning and beating the SEC in the Supreme Court. That basically validated the ETF structure, which we already had a bunch of. And then, of course, the Trump victory has really changed the entire landscape. But for us, you know, really, truly, if you were to look at all of the black swan events that have occurred, whether it's FTX, Genesis, I mean, you take your pick. Everybody's always said to me, you know, well, what happened to you guys? Like, did you go under? Did trades fail? Did you lose a ton of AUM? We actually have never had a month where we've lost client assets, whether that's clients leaving our protocols or actually losing them as a result of some sort of a black swan event. So throughout every one of those major issues, we've never had an issue. We've never failed on a trade. We don't ever use margin. And honestly, I think that just speaks to you know, every one of these protocols is cleared by a prospectus. Every single person who buys these is KYC'd. It's all done through traditional exchanges, which gives people I think a lot more comfort, especially after what happened with FTX. And so, like I said, it's a combination of, two really smart guys in Ollie and Johan creating, taking advantage of what I call the ETFification of almost everything. Like everything's becoming an ETF now, it seems. And then marrying it with the crypto universe, which, even today, 98% of the world still hasn't, even tasted or tried a crypto anything. So you've got this massive tidal wave of buying that we theoretically should see now with the Trump victory and sort of unleashing the US economy in terms of crypto. And then just all of these protocols that we're offering that no one else does. So it's great timing, a little bit of luck, and just some really hard work in some serious dark days.
I mean, you highlighted in your answer like how competitive the landscape is for the digital asset space, and I'm known as like Mr. Moat. Like whenever I look for a company, I have to find their advantage or moats because we live in a capitalistic world that's going to get even more capitalistic going forward. So like advantages and moats matter. What would you say DeFi's specific moat is in this broader ecosystem of digital asset space?
Yeah, so look, you always got to give credit to your other competitors in the space, and kind of the first mover was 21 Shares. They're doing it slightly differently than we are, and they're obviously a private company, and they did the 21 Shares ARC Bitcoin ETF. They've been focused in different areas than us, but we very quietly just launched, protocol after protocol after protocol, and I don't know if I mentioned it, but we've got 20 more that are coming probably in the next 2 weeks. But our moat really is a regulatory moat. It is not easy to do this, and you can see that in a variety of ways. Like one is, look, the market really didn't become a market until the Bitcoin ETF was validated by the Supreme Court ruling. So you really didn't even have a market until then. Then obviously you needed the Trump victory to actually validate, the U.S., the leading capital markets jurisdiction in the world. But then on top of that, you have these regulators who, anytime you want to launch one of these products, you have to, I call it a forensic colonoscopy. I know that sounds a little untowards, but the reality is you have to go through a massive amount of forensic regulatory reviews. And typically that can take somewhere up to 3 years. So our moat is basically a 3-year regulatory nightmare of just trying to get into this space. And don't get me wrong, you've got the Vanguards, the Fidos, the BlackRocks, but typically what they do is they wait and they find companies like us who have 50 or 100 protocols, and then they just buy you. Or if it's another competitor, they need to take time, effort, and a lot of hard work just to actually get up and running. So, you're looking at a company and us, no one else has any inroads in Africa. We're about to launch our products and passport everything to Africa. No one else really has anything in the Middle East. 21 Shares has one product, I believe, in the Middle East. So we'll be making huge inroads there. No one is really offering these products in any size, shape, or scale in Asia. And then you can look to 100 other jurisdictions, whether it's Korea, China, any of the Latin American jurisdictions. All of those are on our radar screen, and then also, of course, the U.S. And so we're going to leverage our first or second mover advantage as much as we can, and then we're going to take advantage of that regulatory moat and the fact that we have so many of these products already approved, so many more coming, and you think 50 is pretty cool. By the end of next year, we're going to try to have 100 of these products. And to all of the previous conversations you guys were talking about, this is an ecosystem that in some people's minds and math is growing 2 times faster than the internet. It's going to take a lot of competition to catch up to that growth of this entire ecosystem. So even if you get 5, 10, or 15 more competitors, you've still got a massive market that hasn't come anywhere close to being saturated. Like, it's going to take the US on fire, Donald Trump pushing this aggressively for even the US to get up to scale and running really quickly in the next year.
I mean, you've used gave us the playbook essentially of what your mode is. So I really appreciate that. But I
Yep.
almost want the blueprint now, where for that secret sauce that you guys clearly have that creates a high
Yep.
barrier of entry for competition. Would you
Yep.
say it's more weighted towards your ETPs, your proprietary trading desk, or the
It's the
acquisition you've
ETPs.
made? It is?
No,
Okay.
it's the ETPs. It's Valor. Valor, we started in 2017. It took us 3 years to get regulatory approval just to even move forward with Valor. We then had to take it public. We did that in 2021. Then it was, I was the CEO at that time. We went from 10 cents to $4. Then it was crypto winter. We got slammed all the way down to 8 cents. We had to clean out millions of shares of trading. It's really funny. Like we've only actually raised 13 million bucks for this company in its entire life form. And our last capital raise was last year in September or October. And a lot of people have come back to me and said, well, why didn't you come to me? And broker dealers have been like, why didn't you give us a chance to do it? And I was like, guys, I asked every single one of you to do it. It was crypto winter. You all said no. And so instead of going anywhere else, we all took mortgages, second mortgages, and we did it ourselves as management, right? It's the true sort of entrepreneurial spirit that kept this company alive and moving forward.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
I think that's so cool, Russ. You touched on having 100 of these by the end of 2025. Can you touch
Yep.
a little bit more on the strategy for scaling the product line and expanding into new markets such as North Africa, Asia, and the Middle East?
Yeah. Well, so our master prospectus allows us to do anything in the top 100 protocols. So, obviously we're going to try to saturate those top 100. But within the top 100, you can do all sorts of other really cool efforts. And if you were to look at some of the JVs we have a JV with an AI company. We're going to be doing baskets. We're creating our own index that we'll be doing basket products off of. If you look at some of our products now, we have an inverse Bitcoin product. One of the coolest products we have is a marriage between Core and Bitcoin. And if you guys have been following Core, we were really, really early on Core. I actually think I'm on record like 6 months ago as calling Core maybe my top pick, and then Sui number 2. And Core is one of those amazing protocols where you can actually stake your Bitcoin, not lend it, stake it. And we happen to have a Core validator node. So not only are you staking it, but you're also tremendously protected by having your own validator node. But you can make up to 15% on your Bitcoin staking it on Core. And so we have a product which no one has really figured out, because we really need to ramp up our marketing efforts. Most of what we've done has been word of mouth, but we offer clients 5.65% to own a Bitcoin ETF, and it's not a covered call strategy, which in this market is not a really safe strategy, because you're always being basically called out of your Bitcoin. So this is just a standard Core Bitcoin. We call it our Bitcoin yield product, and it pays 5.65%. So you're asking, what's your strategy in Africa? That product alone in a nation like Africa or the Middle East or Asia that could be our moneymaker. Who knows? It could be Sui. But the way we think about it, and I know this is a roundabout way of answering your question, Shay, but the way we think about it is, look, our job isn't necessarily to pick the winner. Our job is to get as many of these out there so that imagine your grandmother, trying to buy Core on Kraken. You're going to be like, okay, we're going to get a wallet for you. We got to get an on-ramp.
It's so complicated. It's
everything just shuts down immediately,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's like, sorry, I'm out. Now you can go to her and say, look, we're gonna buy Core through this normal, traditional equity market. It's just like any stock that you could buy, and you can get long Core, on any stock market basically in Europe. That's our simple premise. It's basically allowing people who are terrified of on-ramps, unregulated exchanges, anything like that, and giving them the opportunity to buy this just like a traditional equity with some sort of protection. Obviously it's a prospectus, it's a traditional equity, it's sold everybody's KYC. So there are levels of protection that are better than theoretically an unregulated exchange. But really, truly, that's our goal. And give you a perfect example. Sui, I thought was going to be cool, but it's our fastest growing product. We've gone from 0 to I think close to 30 million US in 3 weeks in Sui. That's incredible. Cardano is now our third largest protocol. I think it's larger than our Bitcoin ETF now. It's just crazy. And I'm sorry that the third speaker who came on, your Bitcoin soothsayer. Sorry, what was your name again? I apologize. Duncan, sorry about that, man. To Duncan's point, like, you don't know who is going to be the next winner. And the next winner may not even be created yet. It's just
exactly.
You just want to be that. Like, DeFi is almost like its own big ETF for people to own who just don't think they can pick the next winner. You just buy DeFi, and then you're inherently long now 30 protocols, soon 50, and soon 100.
Well, I think it's massive because I know there's a large portion of people that are sitting here and they're like, I want to participate in Bitcoin and crypto and all this, but I'm not going to go through their exchanges. I'm just not going to do it. There are people that are so adamant about that and will not get on those markets. So, and you're attacking that area, and I think that's massive.
And we're making money doing it. Which
exactly,
is crazy.
It's huge. Yeah, I wanted to bring Duncan in if you had any questions, because I know you're the crypto guy. I want to hear any thoughts you got.
And Duncan, sorry again about the name. I totally apologize.
All good. Yeah, no, I think that these products are definitely. It's very hard to get exposure. Like, I'm a Canadian, so it's very difficult to buy a lot of these products. But like DeFi does. I've looked at some of their products before. I've bought some of them before. Like, they have a really big Solana product. Sounds like Cardano and Sue are growing really quickly.
Yep.
These are all things that are pretty complicated to buy. So to have them as easy access in a brokerage account, I do think is like a pretty big win. And I've bought DeFi before itself, the actual stock, so I like it. I definitely think that there'll be more competition, but like as Russell said,
sure.
it's a really big market. I guess, yeah, so you guys can list basically anything as an ETP in the top 100?
Yeah.
Okay.
And truthfully, we can list anything as an ETP. Like, we don't have to stay crypto only. It's just crypto is, because we are one of the few that is actually staking our underlying, it just makes sense to be in crypto. But we do have an AI strategy we're going to be launching as well. But yeah, crypto is where clearly we have strength and a skill set and an advantage that we want to leverage, at least for the time being.
And where is most of your investor base out of that holds these ETPs?
All Europe right now. Obviously soon to be Middle East, soon to be Africa, soon to be Singapore. You would have seen our press release, I think it was last week, on Singapore. But we are also attacking, Korea, China, Latin America. We're not just only focused on Nairobi in Africa. We'll be launching in all of the exchanges. And it's actually pretty funny. Like, if you actually, sorry, I shouldn't say it's funny. It's perplexing to me. No one is forecasting any growth in our company. When you look at the valuation of our company, we're trading at about 7 times or 8 times earnings, and no one is forecasting us launching any new products anywhere. It's pretty crazy how valuation has sort of left the market in general. But yeah, we're we'll have 100 products by the end of 2025, and we'll hopefully be in 5, 6, 7, maybe 8, 9, or even 10 new jurisdictions.
Yeah, that's really good stuff, Russell.
Right now, Europe, obviously, though, to answer your question.
Yeah, and is it the same product that'll be launched? Are you going to benefit from the liquidity that you have in your European products in these other jurisdictions, or is it going to be like a fresh start?
No, so the beauty of being so regulated, this is another thing that you'll see me. I don't get on message boards a lot, but every now and then I'll chime in. We are not just regulated. I'd argue we're over-regulated. So like everywhere that we have our products trading, so whether it's France, Germany, Scandinavia, any one of those Scandinavian countries, Switzerland, Canada. We're basically regulated in every one of those jurisdictions, and our prospectuses are cleared by all of those exchanges that trade our products. And so if you can imagine a Middle Eastern or an African regulator, they're going to rely a lot upon all of the due diligence that's already being done in all of the European nations, Canada. Ultimately, obviously, we're going to try to be launching our products in the U.S. So legitimately, what we do is effectively just passport that prospectus from Europe to Asia to Africa to the Middle East. So they will be exact duplicates, twins, so to speak, of those same products that are trading in Europe, and they will just grow infinitely in terms of their liquidity.
Do you see a similar path to Grayscale, or maybe any other pioneers in the regulated digital assets products? And maybe I'm curious on how you're going to maintain your edge as maybe more players enter the space.
Well, like right now, obviously our goal is new products as fast as possible. So we're pushed, like I said, we'll push out another 20 in the next couple of weeks.
That's awesome.
The next one is jurisdictional growth, and then of course there's growth products ever since the election. People just started buying our products out of the blue. Can you guys still hear me?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay,
it cut out for just a second, but you're good now.
Perfect. So our goal is, and this is the math I use for people, like assume Bitcoin doesn't go anywhere, assume all of the prices of every one of our products just stays static, but we launch 50 products in the Middle East, 50 products in Africa, and 50 products in Asia. If we get 20 million in each of those products, that's another billion in each of those jurisdictions. We already are basically at $1 billion in you would have seen that this morning. It's like 920 or 930 million in Europe. So basically that's 4 billion in AUM across those 4 jurisdictions. We make basically 10% yield off of our AUM. So that's 400 million in revenue. And it only costs us $10 million to run this company. So if you even doubled our cost, our revenues would be 400 million next year, and our profits, our net income, and our cash flow would be 380 million. So we're actually only trading at about 2.5 times next year's profits if you just use a reasonable valuation method. And that's sort of what we've been, I don't want to say we've been shouting from the rooftops, but valuation has to come into play at some point. And if you're only trading at 2 times next year's valuation, and you look at where, Coinbase is at 40 times earnings, Robinhood's at 40 times earnings, Galaxy, great company, they don't even have earnings. We're trading at like 2 times forward earnings. So our goal is, to answer your question, Jordan, get as many products out into as many new jurisdictions as possible. And then ultimately, I think, especially if we're trading at these low valuations, someone's just going to come in and probably buy us or try to acquire us, or, who knows? It's just grow, be smart about it, launch really good, transparent products, to Duncan's point, and really take advantage of this ETF world that doesn't exist for this ecosystem that I think everybody wants to become a part of. And you're seeing that with the success of the Bitcoin ETF, right? Like everybody wants a piece of this pie. And
that was kind of the start of it for me, when you were talking about, being able to attack the people that are really not happy to be on any crypto markets, right? We kind of saw those people dip into things like, BTCL, those the Bitcoin ETFs when they first came out, and that showed me like, wow, okay, there's a massive audience here that is willing to trade this, but and maybe invest in it, just not on those crypto markets. So again, I love your whole process. I think this is a great way to go about it.
Look, and honestly, guys, it's been a wild ride, but it's a lot of fun coming from a TradFi sort of gold, natural resources. I'm Canadian as well, capital markets guy, institutional sales, trading and whatnot, with a strong academic background. I started my PhD in econometrics, and to Duncan's question, just sort of thinking about that sort of game theoretical perspective of, if I was China, a really cool move would be to start a Bitcoin treasury move ahead of the US, while all of Congress and Senate is like deliberating about, whether we should do this or we shouldn't do that. If I'm a game theoretical, like super sharp Russian or Chinese guy or gal, I'm like, you know what? While they're just thinking about it, I'm going to do it, and it's going to create shockwaves, and that's that next wave of Bitcoin. But in the meantime, a high tide is going to float all boats, but also being legitimately the first or second mover puts you in a really enviable position to have a lot of fun and watch this entire ecosystem grow, and obviously chat with guys like you who are aligned, and just really meet like-minded sort of entrepreneurial, really interesting people who also see fiat currencies as dying and are looking for these alternatives to protect their wealth. It's fascinating, it's fun, and obviously DeFi is kind of one of those cutting or bleeding edge companies that's taking advantage of it.
I know we have a couple minutes until the hour's up, but I really wanted to ask you this one question, because I think it is going to be a game changer for a lot of investors and also institutions. So I do know that DeFi is progressing towards a NASDAQ uplisting.
Yes.
How do you think this milestone is really going to impact your future opportunities in this space? I think this is going to be a game changer, but I want to hear specific details on what you think about it.
Look, if you look at what happened with Hut or Hive or any of the miners when they uplisted, and remember, miners have never, ever really ever made a profit, ever. And we are extremely profitable. Like, we're on track for, I think, 170 million in net income this year. Uplisting for us gives every single institution, every single retail person basically in the world the ability to buy our stock, whereas trading in Canada and then on the OTC, we're getting a ton of liquidity on the OTC in the US. But uplisting is basically that transformational moment where you take 6 times earnings and you transform it to, let's just say we go straight to traditional S&P earnings, 20 times earnings. That's a 3-bagger right there on us doing nothing. And then imagine being able to pitch Fidelity, and again, I'm not saying they're buying our stock, I'm not saying any of that, but they're kind of prohibited from doing any of it when we're only trading on the OTC. So you get all of these massive retail books in the US or globally. Yeah, so to your point, it would, to me, it's a game changer. It's a valuation game changer, but it's also a game changer in terms of our ability to pitch anyone and kind of go anywhere with this business model that I think is, like I said, not just cutting edge, it's bleeding edge right now. And obviously more people are going to start doing it. But if we can't get our valuation up, you become an instant takeover target and someone else will take advantage of it.
I mean, as much as us retail investors think we're the almighty powerful that we can move a stock, we really can't. You need institutional volume to really move that stock. And you saw it firsthand with like Palantir, for example. Like, that was a stock that retailers loved, but institutions really adopted it this year, and that caused it to go up 300%. So I do think, like, even if the idea is absolutely accurate, you kind of need that institutional push to get to the destination.
Well, if you look at, all you have to do is go back and look at Hut. It's a perfect example. I think Hut was like $3 or $4, uplisted to the NASDAQ. I think it went straight to 16 or 17 bucks just on the NASDAQ uplisting. And I'm not saying that's exactly what's going to happen. I'm just saying that's an example of what could easily happen and be replicated. And let's be blunt, like, the entire SEC is going to change on January 20th. And it's pretty obvious that Trump is, if not the most pro-Bitcoin president you could ever see, he's certainly up in like the top. Well, actually, he's the top. I don't think.
Yeah, I haven't seen anybody else as bullish as him.
Yeah.
No, did it freeze?
He's rugging a bit again.
He's rugging a bit.
I mean,
what happened?
Oh, there he
oh,
is.
you were
We're
right.
good.
Okay.
Sorry, man. I was just saying, if Trump isn't, and then I was like, no, he probably is.
Yeah.
Literally the most proactive, positive crypto president you could be.
Yeah,
Yeah,
100%.
I mean, re-ratings are powerful, and that's like
Yep.
people. I hear
Yep.
this all the time, like, oh, when Nasdaq uplists a stock, like, why is it up so much? Like, nothing really fundamentally changed. I say the narrative changed, and that's going to cause a re-rating of
Yeah.
the stock multiple. The multiples are going to start expanding now, and that
Yep.
expansion is nobody knows the runway on it, especially if it's the company's undervalued already. Which
Now,
we just
what's
called out
interesting
why.
though, all of a sudden, like me trying to pitch, a $10 billion fund, I'm actually getting in the door. Like all of a sudden, these massive funds want to see us, and some of them are actually buying on the OTCQX ahead of the uplist because they are basically betting that the Galaxies and the DeFis and all of these companies that were stuck in this SEC quagmire are basically all going to get uplisted, and it becomes almost its own trade in and of itself now. And so you are starting to see, like, I don't know what our liquidity or where we're trading at now, but our liquidity has just exploded since the Trump election.
Well, listen, Russ, like I'm really happy for DeFi. I'm stoked for you. Like I feel
Thanks,
like
man.
everything's kind of lining up perfectly as we enter 2025. And
No, I'm glad we did this. You opened my
Yeah,
eyes a
just
lot
fingers
to this
crossed, man.
whole area of things, and I'm very interested in keeping an eye on it and learning more. So I appreciate you, Russell.
Look, I appreciate you guys. Thanks so much for having me. And honestly, anytime you want to chat, happy to hop on a call, whatever. Good job to talk to people, but I genuinely love talking to people like yourselves who are actually, eyes on the game, on the ball, and looking for that edge. And I really think there are some seriously good opportunities out there, and DeFi is one of them. So,
Well, big shout out to DeFi then.
Thanks,
We
man.
appreciate you again. I'll likely be contacting you soon.
You got it.
So we'll
And thanks
talk.
again, Duncan. Appreciate it. Appreciate everyone. Shay, Jordan, really appreciate you guys. Thanks so much, and have a great day.
Absolutely, you too, Duncan. Appreciate you as well, my man. Touching on crypto stuff, you help us out because I am not the expert there. So appreciate you coming in. But yeah, we're gonna be wrapping up the episode for today. But for the audience, we appreciate you tuning in as always. Shy, if you got any last words, feel free. But
live to trade another day. Don't get greedy. Don't get ever over leveraged. This rally we're experiencing is in the early innings. It's got some legs to it, and the worst thing you can do is bust your portfolio before it really gets started in 2025.
100%. Well, with that
Buy
said,
your winners. Buy your
Yep.
winners.
Yep. With that said, everybody enjoy the rest of the day. Trade safe, and we'll see you guys back in early in the morning.